Okay, I've sewn all the way around the valance using my 1/2 inch. Except for the top, of course, I've sewed down the sides. I've gone across my bottom, and I went back up the other side of it using the 1/2 inch sewing allowance. Now, before we turn it and press it, I'm going to take my scissors, and I'm going to do a couple of little things. I'm going to trim off a little bit of the sewing allowance right here. And I'm also going to snip into this corner with a little V, and I'll show you in a second. And the reason why I'm doing it is just to ease it up. I'm going to do it to all the corners. I'm going to snip a little V right here, but then around, okay, back into this corner. When I'm done, I'll show you what that looks like. And then around the scallop, around each scallop, I'm putting little cuts into it. This is going to ease it. And I'm coming very close to the stitch, but I'm not touching the stitch. But I am coming pretty darn close to the stitch. And this is just going to help it ease it as you're going around it. Again, I'm going to put another V right in the corner. In each corner, there's going to be a V. Coming very close to the stitching without touching the stitching. And again, put several little cuts to help ease around. This way when you turn it, it'll help it. You don't have to do anything to the straight part. I'll give you a close-up in a minute here. And I'm cutting both through both the lining and the fabric. When I'm doing this. Try to keep your workstation clean. A few more here. Okay. Now I'll turn it around so you can see what I've done. On this corner where the return is, I put a V, and then I cut the sewing allowance back, so when you turn it, you don't have the sewing allowance all into this corner, because it's a sharp corner right here. Then there's a V here, and then several little snips in both the fabric and the lining close to the stitch mark all the way around it, and then V's again. Because where it goes straight to where it angles right here, that's where it can bind when you turn it and start pressing it. So that's kind of an important part of it. The next step is to turn it and to press it. That's the beauty of having the whole top of it open. Makes it easier to get to everything. Try to get your fingers in there as far as you can. Grab as much of the corner of it as you can. Same thing on the opposite side. Pull it out as much as you can. In these corners, you can take a pin and pull out the extra fabric and make sure you get it all out. So you have your point. And you can do the same thing on the other side. Pulling it all out. Make sure everything is even. Good. And the pressing is all going to be done on the lining side when we press it. Going to pull everything out of it and trying to make sure that you get something with a nice half circle. And that the lining is edge to edge. And then take your iron . Working from the back side, try to get the lining and the fabric edge to edge. Sometimes in the corners, because I don't have any nails, you might have to take a little pin and pull out in the corners as much as you can. You women with nails, you had me beat, because you could probably just pull it right out with your nail. Make sure it's good and warm. On the lining side, now I'm over to the front, I'm pressing it again over, and sometimes in these corners right here you get a little ripple. So what you want to do is you want to press up to the top and get those little ripples out. And it's important to press from both sides, starting with the lining side, then flipping it over to the front side, pulling out any little, you know, any place that might be sandwiched in wrong, and especially in those corners, hit those corners well. Not going to recommend a lot of steam, but just enough steam to do the job, depending on your fabric. But you want to make sure that at this point your valance is pressed well. And this can be the pickiest part of the whole process, because you got to make sure that these look round. So you got to kind of keep pulling at the fabric out, pulling it out. Make sure you're getting a fairly round looking scallop. And see, I'm just kind of going with an upward motion. And that's looking pretty good. The next step is to pin the top, because we are going to sew across the top. And this, yes, you want to make sure that you're bringing your fabric up when you're doing it. And this time I am going to put my pins in going horizontally. The lining is staying pretty even, so I don't have to trim anything off. I wasn't sure if that was going to happen. But again, you want to make sure you're moving any of the excess material up to the top, so you don't get any puckers. And then when I sew this top down, I'm only going to use a 1/4 inch sewing allowance at the top. Enough to catch the lining in the fabric. And that's it, because when I staple it on the board, well, actually, we're going to pleat it. We're going to sew down the pleats. And then we're going to staple it on the board with using a 1/2 inch allowance. So that's why I only want to use a 1/4 inch right now. So when we staple it on the board, we're using a 1/2 inch. Okay, so I'm going to bring this over to the sewing machine, stitch it down a 1/4 inch, and I'll be back.